Hello and welcome back. So today we are going to first talk about HDR. Yesterday I kind of left on a little bit of a cliffhanger with at the end of a discussion on how to choose your exposure settings on your camera, so that when you're taking a photo of a high contrast scene, you're able to choose which part you want correctly exposed. So do you want lots of details in the shades or in the highlights? But with this mode, with HDR, we are able to light it all correctly. So HDR stands for High Dynamic Range, and like the name says, is a technique for adding more dynamic range, which is the ratio of light to dark in a photograph. So what this means is that you will get a picture which looks more like what your eyes see rather than what the camera sees. Traditionally, this is not actually a super easy process, because on another camera you really need a tripod and you need to take 3 photos with slightly different exposure settings, so that one's just a little bit too dark and one's just a little bit too bright, and then one right in the middle, and then you edit them all together at the end to widen the dynamic range, and you choose the best bits from each one. Some newer DSLR cameras can do this automatically, but so does your smartphone. So the way your smartphone does this is pretty amazing. It really does all the work for you here. So most phones, as far as I know, also save one HDR photo for you and one normal one when you've taken a photo in HDR mode. So even after you've taken it, you can compare and decide which you like better. So it really gives you all of the options. Some manufacturers call it HDR, some call it dynamic tone or rich tone. Many phones have HDR turned on automatically, but I would suggest going to your phone settings and turning auto HDR off so you can decide when to use it, like here. Once you have turned auto HDR off, it should come up in your camera app, where you can still set it to auto, on or off, as you can see here. There are some times where you want to avoid HDR. So if you're taking photos of subjects in motion, I would recommend not using it. HDR will increase the chance of a blurry photo if any of the subjects are moving or could move. So because HDR captures 3 images at once, if your subject moves between the first shot and the second one, even if it's just a short time, the final picture will not look so good. And when we're talking about high contrast scenes, sometimes you want a really dramatic look. For instance, in a scenario where there's a dark shadow or a silhouette you would like to highlight, HDR mode will make this a little bit less intense, and it would kind of deliver a less dramatic or interesting photo if that's what you're looking for. It is a really amazing feature though, and personally I think using HDR for landscape is the most effective way of using it. Because you can both take your time when you're taking a landscape photo, and you can make sure your phone is stable, and it's really useful for capturing the contrast in brightness between the sky and the earth especially. Now I want to use the rest of the time we have in today's videos to talk about another mode that I think all of you have on your phone, and this one is particularly interesting for landscapes again. Most newer Android and iPhone models have a panorama mode built into the camera, and even if you don't have one, there are a number of panoramic photo apps available to download. They generally all work the same, so I just want to show you what they look like in an iPhone and on an Android, and I hope you can make it work on your own phone too. So step by step, this is how you do it. You open up your phone's camera, and then on the bottom of the screen you scroll along to panorama or pano mode. On my phone it's to the right. As an aside, on some phones you can tap an arrow here to change the direction of the camera. Others just let you move left or right without having to first specify the direction. But to start your panorama, tap the shutter button and then move the phone as steady as possible to capture the scene. When you're done, tap the shutter button again to finish. If you reach the end of the line that your phone shows, it may sometimes automatically stop taking the photo and just save it for you. To view the panorama, you can just go to your camera roll or your photo folder and check it out. Here's the one I just made. Generally, when you take a panorama photo, the goal is continuous fluid movement. Too slow and your photos can probably overlap in weird ways, and too fast and you can kind of either veer off course so you get a jagged picture, or you end up with a blurry photo. So I think most cameras have a line that you want to stay on, and sometimes you even get pop-up messages to keep you on course. So if your phone tells you to move faster, just make that happen. You can also use a tripod, which would guarantee a very steady panorama too. So remember, you can also take a panorama going up the way, so not just horizontal, but vertical as well. So just as a quick side note, the theme for this Feis weekend is trees. So it might be fun to explore panorama mode with some tall trees if you can, and if you have any close by. So you can try to position yourself under a tree and do a panorama upwards and kind of see what happens, what that would look like. I want you to try out both of these modes today and just try them out and have some fun with it. So that's HDR and that's panorama. Just as an added challenge though, I wanted to give you a theme. And the theme for this weekend is that all of these photos should try to portray one specific mood. Like last time, just surprise me, and you can of course be as creative and abstract or literal as you like. It's all gonna be great. It's really just an excuse to take some photos again. And as this is a tutorial for a Feis, I think it's fitting that we learn a little bit of Gaelic or brush up on it. So you can pause this image for some ideas. When it's time to save them to the Dropbox folder, please make sure to save them with your name and the name of the mood that you've chosen, and then a number for all of your photos. There will be another video coming out later today, so I'll see you then.
Mittler te hulen tonne set de goe set de voik mittler te hulen tonne set de voik voik mittler te hulen tonne set de goe set de voik mittler te hulen tonne set de voik voik get de vinya se gost get de vitu koch get de vinya se gost ke kenin hinte kos get de vinya se gost get de vitu koch get de vinya se gost ke kenin hinte kos mittler te hulen tonne set de goe set de voik mittler te hulen tonne set de voik voik mittler te hulen tonne set de goe set de voik mittler te hulen tonne set de voik voik posso ligarido posso me xinguir para a grande pirin posso ligarido posso me xinguir para a grande pirin mittler te hulen tonne set